is that time, and of course you are watching Mahala Monday live on this Monday morning, the 1st of February. What a privilege it is to be with you. My name is Dougal. Good morning, and here's Rhoda.
Good morning and welcome to Mahala Monday, everybody, for our second show of the morning.
Yeah.
Woo woo!
I always get excited when I say here's Rhoda. I don't know why. It's
Just like that.
It's just the
Yeah,
way
what
it
can I
is.
say?
Yeah, you're watching Mahala live, Mahala Monday live on. We're on YouTube at Nickay Productions, and we're live on Facebook as well at Nickay Productions. And you know this is an interactive show. You know we bring you great information, that platform you need, that knowledge builder, the foundation, every single thing that you need. And of course, it's interactive, so you get to hook up with us. So what any comments you have, questions, please put it on at Nickay Productions. The
That's
details
right.
are at the bottom of your screen. It couldn't be easier.
That is so true. And you know what? I'm quite excited today, Dougal, because today we've been discussing businesses, starting up businesses that's been in the industry for some time, and just basically the foundation of having to make sure that your business is running smoothly.
I like the way you put foundation, because it is the most important thing in any structure.
Almost,
It is the most
definitely.
important. And it's the thing you don't see.
It's the thing you don't see.
Look at me.
Look, I'm telling you, I'm very impressed, Dougal. I'm very impressed.
Tomorrow I'll be... Yeah. But it is that. Yeah, we are talking about business. And especially we know the pandemic has thrown curveballs that nobody has ever seen coming.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody is sort of standing going, what to do next? What do we do? How do we get things in line? So it doesn't matter where you are in terms of your business life. If you are a well-established business, if you are starting up, this is what Mahala Monday does. And as Rhoda always eloquently put, we're bringing you that information so you can make informed decisions and, of course, know exactly where to go. So we have been talking about businesses, but let me preface this by saying we live in a different age. We are in 2021, and for some time, for many a year, our lives have been happening online. So if your personal life is online to all extents, business life is online to all extents.
True.
And it is very important to be relevant there, to do the right things. And this is where the topic comes in for today.
Oh, that is so true, Dougal. And you know what? I found that a lot of people having to either start a business don't ask the very important questions, and you find that a lot of people actually have to say, I don't know how to do this, I don't know where to start. And this is exactly what we've been doing, even with our show we had this morning and the show that we're having now. This is one of the most critical ones as well, because today we're living in the age of social media, we're living in the age of technology, and we need to take advantage of that. And a lot of people at this point, and with COVID now, a lot of our age groups, which is your later 40s, 30, maybe even 30, later 30s.
I'm 12.
He is 12. And they've lost their jobs. They don't know where to start. And what do? They want to start their own business, but they don't know how to take advantage of technology. And one of these things is basically your emails, your websites, hosting. There's so many questions that they themselves don't even know.
Yeah. And those are critical questions, because having an online presence, having a website, all of this, what do you do? What are the right questions you got to be asking? And we know there's many lessons in this, like, you got your product. But right now, the pandemic has thrown a curveball. You got to think outside the box. That is your new playground. That is your homeostasis. Ooh, big word on a Monday. So who do we turn to when it comes to these sort of questions? Who do we turn to? Well, luckily for us, we know exactly who to turn to. And this is where we bring in Athan, who is joining us live here on Mahala Monday, of course, from MCOZA. They definitely the leaders. They definitely the people to guide you into the right direction. And especially when it comes to those difficult questions when it comes to that online presence. So Athan is with us this morning today. Athan, good morning. How are you? Thank you very much for joining us on Mahala Monday, and thanks for being here, mate.
Good morning, Rhoda. Good morning, Dougal. Thank you for having me.
No, trust me when I say this is absolutely our pleasure, because as Rhoda was just saying, everything today happens online, and it's difficult questions for any business to do. When it comes to in terms of domain names, hosting, email, websites, all of that. We don't even know where to start. So this is where we got you in here, because that is where we want to start. But before we start that right now, quickly, Athan, in a nutshell, everything happens online today. So it is very important for a business to have some sort of online presence, I suppose.
Correct. You know, Dougal, you're spot on there. I think, with the pandemic and everything happening and where we are, having an online presence is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And if you don't have an online presence, it actually takes away from your business, because one of the first places people will go to validate a business, is to Google them,
Yeah.
because think of it this way.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with a meeting. If you meet someone, or you're going to have a meeting with someone that you've never met before, what are you going to do? The first thing you're going to do is Google their name to find out what their interests are, who they are, who they're connected to. You know what I mean? You want to validate that person. So the exact same thing will happen with a business brand, or a business that you're going to be having a meeting with, or a business person you're going to be having a meeting with. You want to validate that business. So if you are going to a meeting and that business doesn't exist online, you're going to ask yourself a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do I want to be doing with a business? Do I want to be dealing with a business that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because literally, if you're not online, do you exist?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what?
So true.
And I want to say this, sorry, Athan, I also want to say this, because for a long time, and you've always heard people say that, don't worry about the online stuff, because it's almost secondary. Worry about your product, your service, polish that. Having if I can call it a business card, that is not an immediate thing. It is more like a sort of an ego gratification situation. However, with the pandemic, it's lockdown. You couldn't go out. People will stay put. So, and I mean, how many people actually use a yellow page? And I got to be honest with you, I don't even sure if you still get the yellow pages. I'm sure you do. I just haven't seen one. But to the point, anything and everything I want to know, whether it's a business, a service, the first thing is I take out my phone, take out my laptop or my tablet, and I will do an online search for it. So it is so important for a business to do it. Now, let's paint the picture here. Assume a business is thinking that whether you're a startup business or whether you're an established business and you already have a website, you already know little things about hosting. Where do we start? What is the first thing? What is most important for any business that wouldn't have any of that facilities yet? What do we start off with? Can we go straight into domain names? What is that, firstly?
Correct. Just before we jump onto the domain name, Dougal, I want to emphasize the fact that, 9 times out of 10, when a client comes for these services, they have not done adequate research. They have very little information relating to what their needs are. So at the end of the day, if you are dealing with a client that doesn't know what their needs are, and a client approaches a company or a person, a web developer that maybe is in the beginning of their stages of their business, there's going to be a lot of discrepancy relating to the outcome of the product, So meaning that, it is on the onus of the client also to do a little bit of research to find out what questions need to be asked, or what they would like to ask, and so that they can address their own needs better, So I would say, do a little bit of Googling, do a little bit of research, and not only that, the kind of questions that you need to be asked come in certain stages. So the first stage, like you said, would be your domain name. The first thing you want to do is acquire your domain name. That's the place to start, okay? So you want to make sure that domain name also correlates with your branding,
Okay.
So you want to acquire your domain name as the word from the beginning, because from there you'll be able to start to set up things like your hosting, your emails, your website. Okay, so your domain name, like you said, will be in the beginning relating to that. So just as preceding that, the kind of questions that people will ask, for example, they'll come to us and they'll say, my company's name is Rob's Auto Dealers, and that's what they want to acquire. Now, Rob's Auto Dealers, would be quite a lengthy name.
Okay.
For a domain name. Okay. And people also need to realize that domain names, in the COZA space have a limited amount of characters. Okay, so you can't have a 20 character domain name. Okay, so there is a limited amount of characters. Even if your brand name is or your business name is 20 characters long, you are going to be limited. So in this particular case, we would suggest that you try to keep your domain name as short as possible and use an abbreviation.
Okay.
And that abbreviation, would basically suffice because you want to make sure that things like your emails, the ability for people to remember your email address or your website address through your domain name is very short. So the shorter it is, the easier it is to remember for any prospective or future clients.
So, Athan, on that, I understand the point, and I suppose it's a very valid point that it's got to be short and sweet and memorable, more importantly. As you said, it can't be if your first name, like if I take my first name, for instance, Dougal, that's already 6, 7 letters, 20 letters, whatever. And then have automobile services as my company, as one word. That is way too long because that's almost writing it in 2 lines.
Yeah.
But as my business, this is my baby. I don't want you changing my name. This is what I'm known for.
Correct.
How hard is it to make that shift? How hard is it to do that?
Look, Dougal, you're correct there in making that particular assumption that yes, when you use an abbreviation, your business might not be known by its abbreviation.
Yes.
Because it's known by its full name. Everybody knows it as its full name, which is quite lengthy.
Yeah.
And you're using abbreviation online. In this particular case, even though you're using an abbreviation, the reference to that abbreviation for Google would be your full name, your business's full name. So when people search for your actual services, Rob's Automobile Services on Google, the metadata on the website, will pull up that abbreviation and say, this is actually Rob's Auto Services. Okay?
So Google is clever.
Yes, absolutely. Google is Google is quite intelligent in that particular case because you must think about companies like IBM. IBM is an abbreviation, of the company.
True.
Yeah.
And everybody knows and is familiar with that abbreviation.
Yeah. And then just on that. Sorry. No, continue. I'll ask now.
No, I was actually just going to say, even like Microsoft, MS, things like that, abbreviation.
And then just on that, because names is always such a tricky part, and business names are always such a tricky part, because if I should have done, say, roader photography, there could have been another roader photography out there. So the limitations, obviously, on names, having to choose a domain, could you just maybe chat into that? Because we can't have 2 roader photographies out there at the end of the day as a domain name. Am I correct?
That's you're spot on. You're spot on. Look, with domain names, the rule of thumb basically is first come, first serve. Okay? So if you're going to acquire roaderphotography.com, no one else can acquire roaderphotography.com. So you've got a bit of a head start there. Okay? But luckily that how Google search defines the different companies matters more. Okay, so when you search, the chances are very low that even though you have 2 companies with the same name, that both companies are in the same location. Okay, so Google will basically also dissect these companies by where are they located, and things like that. So these elements are basically inside Google's algorithm, when people actually search.
Okay.
So Athan, I like that. It's a very. I like that. Just to point out for that example, of course, there's the one wrong roader and there's the one correct one. I didn't get to put that in there. But so what would be the questions if as a business approaching you? What would be the questions that is key for me to ask you in terms of, or at least have it answered for myself when it comes to domain names?
Okay. when it comes to the domain names, first you want to see that if your name is short enough, if your business's name is short enough, okay, is that name available in your local domain extension?
Yeah.
Meaning, is it available in co.za? If it's not available in co.za, you want to look at options. And the options are very limited, meaning that, the only real option is that, maybe you'd want to hyphenate. So, for example, roto photography. Okay, if roto photography is already taken, I can use a hyphen. Okay, in the sense that I can use roto photography.co.za.
Yeah.
So that might be another option, And another option would be to actually use what we call a subdomain name. Okay, and a subdomain name is free of charge. And what this does basically is, instead of, if roto photography is once again taken, .co.za, I can maybe, and photography is available. Okay, I can then instruct my host to have roda.photography.co.za
Okay.
as a subdomain, and use that subdomain as my main domain. So there are options of actually going around and manipulating this so that you can still keep your brand name intact if that's what you want,
Okay.
So-
And as I said earlier on, there's also the abbreviation element to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And adding to that as well, because there's something we see all the time. You always hear of something underscore slash, and that might speak to email names or
There we go.
email
Yeah.
addresses or something, but it is something that is of the norm. And so it is really a mind shift as well for a business owner to move beyond that, because
Correct.
there is more than one John in the world. There will
John.
be more than one your business
There we go.
name in the world.
So true.
There's
Correct.
ways around
Correct.
it, and like you so eloquently explained as well, the algorithms of your search engines will definitely sort of
Sort
narrow
it
it down. Moving
Correct.
on from that, Athan, so we know it is important that these are the kind of questions you sort of got to ask when it comes to domain names. And luckily for us, and that is why we're talking to you, because
Yeah.
you giving that answers. And I can't speak for other businesses other than you, because this is why we're
Correct.
talking to you to the point. What is hosting? So can you
Hosting,
explain hosting to us, and also what would be the pitfalls of hosting? What are the things I need to sort of address before I talk about hosting?
Good question, Google. Hosting, basically, think of it this way. When you buy a USB stick, you buy them in different sizes. So I can buy a USB stick, which is very small, of 10 megabytes. It's not going to give me much information.
Yeah.
I can buy a USB stick of 1 gigabyte,
Yeah.
or I can buy a USB stick of 1 terabyte, depending, if I want to stack lots of information on it. Hosting basically would be that equivalent, meaning literally disk space. How much disk space
Okay.
is being provided for your data, like emails and website and pictures and videos that need to be hosted. So basically, think of hosting as disk space.
Okay. So would that
Okay.
be important then, if in terms of you want interactive video and live video, and I suppose for any business, once they decide on their hosting space, whatever's on their website, they don't ever want to lose it. They want it to be there forever and ever and a day. So in this instance, as technology has moved forward, wouldn't the bigger the be, the better? But I mean, obviously, it comes at a premium.
No, absolutely. You're spot on there, Dougal. The bigger the better. However, most companies really don't require, we have a lot of streaming services now where you don't actually have to host video on your hosting environment. You can host it on YouTube and then literally have it embedded into your website. So even though it's being presented in your website, it's hosted on YouTube, not on your local disk space. So you'll find a lot of those kinds of services available, so that you basically don't have to utilize your disk space for these particular services and have huge amounts of disk space. Okay.
Oh.
You see now that brings me back to the point. That's why we're talking to Athan today, because you're getting the silver platter info right there. No one's going to give you that. But that's like lotto numbers.
And I think it's so overwhelming for so many people having to actually do that, because I mean this is like I mean, domain names, hosting, and people starting businesses are not familiar with these terms. And
Correct.
I'm so glad
Correct.
that you're able to highlight this and how important it is for you as a business owner to actually have a domain name and having hosting
Yeah.
as well, you know.
So if you're watching this right now, of course, with us is Athan from MCOZA. And this is brilliant because I'm explaining domain names, and especially when you're starting with you're busy with your business, and these are the questions you got to ask, and also with hosting. You know, what are your needs,
Yeah.
and how do you do it, and what else would be the major things that we got to ask ourselves about hosting, or at least be very familiar with hosting.
Look, I think one of the major things that people need to ask you, look, there's the hosting, and then there's also the hosting environment. Okay, now the hosting environment is basically the software that controls this space. Okay, and there's two major, I would say, formats, environment formats in the hosting world, and one is Linux and one is Windows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you can have a Windows hosting environment, or you can have a Linux hosting environment. But by far, Linux dominates. Okay, Linux hosting environment dominates.
Okay.
Windows is a very, very small proportion of it. Okay, so obviously you'd want to make sure that your hosting environment is Linux orientated, just so that you are in the mainstream. If Windows is so small and you have any problems, you're not going to find many people that can help you with it.
Wow.
And if you do, it's a niche and it's going to be very expensive. So rather go where everyone else is, because you know there are lots of experts in that space of Linux hosting environments that would be able to assist you, and the price would obviously be much, much cheaper. You know, so make sure that your environment for your hosting, just ask your host, you know what, am I going to be hosted on a Linux environment or Windows?
Wow.
And my preference would be Linux. You
Wow.
know, so that you know that you are basically amongst those higher standards. You know what I mean? And the most sought after environment there is.
Oh, that's why we've got you here today. I mean, just listening to you and having to actually myself even. I didn't myself know about this. I think my other guys with the technical side would know about this, and this is more informed for me as well, knowing exactly for those guys, Linux guys. So you need to know
correct.
these words. I mean, yeah. And then on top
Correct.
of that, you know, one of the important things I think for a business as well is emails. Very
Email.
important at the end of the day. And I think we've had this discussion, Athan, where I had indicated there was a lot of emails that was coming through, and there was a lot of emails where it was .gmail.com. And like I informed you, I kind of got a bit worried because they wanted information, there was things happening, and I felt a bit
Correct.
uncomfortable for the fact it was gmail.com, because you know everybody can create a Gmail account, you know. So I think just on emails, could
Correct.
you give us a little bit more details on how important that is for a company as well?
Absolutely, Rhoda. You know, when it comes to email, and specifically Gmail, I mean, you'll find a lot of companies out there using the Gmail accounts, okay, as their main business email account. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se. You know, Gmail is a very, very efficient service, you know, so there's nothing wrong with that. However, if they want to literally brand themselves online, you know, the branding and making sure that, you know what, if they're going to be having an online presence, connecting that online presence with their Gmail account, you know, through a domain name is very, very possible, you know, and just so that they maintain a level of consistency with their brand. Because why would you want Rhoda Photography as your website and your email address is Rhoda247 at gmail.com? There's no brand consistency there.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to say, but I went to her website and it's rhodaphotography.com, and what is this email, Rhoda at 24/7 coming through that says it's Rhoda, or is a spam, or, you know, there's no brand consistency there.
Yeah.
You know, so that basically you want to make sure that if you're going to have an online presence, you do have that brand consistency, because your email, your domain name your website, all these things, even your capacity to be found on Google, you want to maintain that level of consistency through your branding.
And Athan, does it also speak to a level of trust? Because as you said, if I've engaged with this,
Absolutely.
I mean, and now I'm getting a Gmail account that I'm a bit, a bit hesitant, and I suppose
Absolutely.
and optically it just maybe doesn't send such a professional message.
Correct.
Maybe.
Message. Very true. Very true. Google, you spot on. You spot on. Look, the one thing that is very important is validation. So you people want to by default validate a company. So that's why I said if the domain name is this, and the email is something else, that breaks the validation. You want to make sure that you have that validation. This is the domain name or the website, and this is the email. They validate the same names. You know what I mean? So there's brand consistency, there's validation. There's no question that might arise in the client, but who's this? The router 24/7. You know what I mean? At Gmail. You know what I mean? And that validation is broken. You want to make sure that there is complete validation. They see they've been to the website. They're getting an email. There's consistency with inside of the brand. They feel comfortable and validated. To deal and respond to that email.
And then, just on that as well. And I go quite crazy when somebody actually has to give me their email address and the extension, obviously, after, the name at and then the business name at the back. Sometimes it's so long. And I find this quite frustrating because many times I sometimes lose out on a number or a letter within that email. So how important is that even for businesses to decide on the email address as well, obviously?
Well, like when we started early on, Rhoda, you spot on with that it can't be too wordy. If your actual business name, is too wordy, look at the options of abbreviation. Because abbreviation basically can work for you in this particular case. Instead of having this domain name, which now has to have an email address, which adds more characters to the domain name from an email perspective. And it just becomes a little bit overwhelming. You know what I mean? And it might not even fit in your business card for that matter. So there's a lot of things
imagine
that you need to think
card.
about. Exactly.
And to add to that, when potential clients speak to you, you guide them through this. You guide them through this, even if they wouldn't know.
Google, absolutely. We guide them through it. And this is the thing is that, the process of consultation and guidance is pivotal because, as I said, 9 times out of 10, clients don't know what they want. Understanding these technologies, wanting to purchase a domain name, email, website, you know what I mean, submissions to Google, they have no idea what goes into it. And you need that consultation. I can almost guarantee you that without and things are going to go wrong. That I can almost guarantee. Without consultation, things are going to go wrong. If you're not guided, and personally, if a client doesn't want to be guided, I would actually say that, maybe that's not a good idea then to be able to deal with that particular client. Maybe the client's not for you, just because the amount of technology, and technology changes all the time. Guidance is going to occur. The guidance is going to allow for a better outcome relating to the product, a better satisfied client, and it's going to streamline the work process between you and the development company. It's going to make it a smooth transitional process, with a better outcome at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think this is quite good because many times you, as somebody starting a business, you are not aware of the fact that a design house, and I can speak now from experience on having to have a website. We've had a shopping cart on our website, on Nickay's website, and having a design house, obviously, you come to them, I want this, but you know what? For me at this point, I would advise anybody first really to go, even just to go to MCOZA, have a sit down with you and have a consultation with you and actually look at what do you need, what is your, like those questions that you need to have, because once you go to one of these design houses, they basically going to want to do a website for you and bombard you with a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily know. So it's actually, for me, it's better to be informed before you actually go to them and sit down with you and say, okay, what is my requirements? What do I need? You can't expect a design house necessarily to come up with your logos and everything, because all these things need to be thought of prior to actually going to have your website done, which is very important in saving time.
Correct. Not only time, the entire, having a pleasant process. Because it's quite a lengthy process. There's a lot of communication that has to happen, and you want to have an enjoyable process. Anything that you do, you want to, because you're excited about your brand going online.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm my brand going online the first time, I'm going to want to deal with a designer or a developer or a design house or agency that is excited about taking my brand online. So I want engagement. You know what I mean? I want investment on both sides relating to, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? How are we going to plan this? How are we going to strategize this? Because each client is different. They have different needs. Even if two clients sell the same things or the same a business model, the execution and the needs relating to how they basically portray themselves online is still going to be different.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So those.
No. Continue.
Continue.
No, all I was basically going to say to conclude it was that, if the process is not enjoyable and engaging, I think, it's going to cause problems. And the place to start with that is that consultation, Just think of it this way. I know this is quite a bit of an analogy, but it's like dogs before they start playing with each other. The first thing they do is sniff each other, we won't go about where they sniff each other, but you know what? They're going to spend at least 5 minutes smelling each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just making that connection. So the idea of the consultation process is to actually also gauge, is this client for me? Is this client the person I want to deal with? Because you're dealing with a lot of communication going forward. You know what I mean? So you need to make sure that you are going to be, this is someone that you want to deal with on both sides. Because it's not just going to be an in and out quick fix. It's going to be a long-term relationship.
So true.
And the quality of that relationship depends on the communication, the initial communication.
Yeah.
So
I like what you're saying. I've got a funny comment to make, and I'm going to do it now. But I want to also talk about websites. Just where you're saying, like, just sort of sussing each other out. It is so important, especially in the infancy, in the foundation phase of anything. So I met with a prospective client. We were doing these gigs, and I met with a prospective client. And he afterwards, subsequently, and we've had a brilliant relationship since our initial engagement, and it is just a relationship that has grown. But I remember him subsequently, much later, months, half a year, 2 years later, telling me that if I still remember our initial meeting, because all he wanted to do, and he said this very clearly to me, was just checking me out. He says it was a sparring match. And the thing is, what I remember clearly from this is he had his wife with him, and I could sense it was like a bit of a sort of dish conversation. So I just ended up chatting to his wife, and I just charmed her the way I couldn't charm anybody else. And that was it. And it was an easy thing, because I realized something very small. They would leave there, she'd remember me. He would either hate me, but more importantly, when I was in the room, she would talk about me. And that was the deal. That was the sale. I wasn't in there. She was constantly selling it. So I remember that. But moving on to websites, because when you start off as a website, or your website, you want everything. I mean, we're talking everything. You want the car, the sink, the dog. You want everything. All the Christmas trimmings. You want everything in the website. What is the most important and the fundamental basics that you need to be ticking if you start off with your website?
All right. Brilliant question once again, Dougal. On that, I would say there's a few points. There's a couple of points, because I mean, obviously a website is quite a lengthy procedure to put together. A website is quite a lengthy procedure to put together, and there's a couple of questions that clients have to ask. I think that just to go through them very quickly, one would be the CMS or content management system used. By far, the CMS, like with hosting early on, I said go for Linux because it's the most popular.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing applies with the CMS. WordPress is the most popular CMS on the market. The majority of websites are made from WordPress. So make sure that you ask your designer or your developer that you know what, your website needs to be WordPress. So that you know what, there's lots of other WordPress developers out there. That you are not going to have some unique kind of CMS that nobody ever heard of and nobody can help you with in future.
Yeah.
And WordPress is popular, because it's very user friendly. It has all the standard elements, program languages built into it. And as I said, the majority of websites utilize WordPress. So make sure that you ask for a WordPress website. Okay. And not only that, you would be able to manage that website yourself with a little bit of training. Just a few minutes of training, you'd be able to update a WordPress website yourself. It's that easy. Yeah. Okay, after the developers designed it. Okay, so make sure your website is WordPress. Then make sure that you ask your designer or developer that the website is cross-browser compatible. Now, everybody knows that, you have Chrome as a browser, you have Safari as a browser, you have Firefox as a browser. You have so many different browsers.
Yeah.
Okay? But by far, the majority of them are Firefox and Chrome. So that's where the cross-browser compatibility comes in. That you want to make sure that when you open up Chrome, whether you open up Safari, whether you open up Firefox, the website looks the same. Because all of them are different programs. They do the same, they deliver the same purpose, but they're actually different programs. So you want to make sure that your website looks the same on all these different browsers, and that's called cross-browser compatibility. Then, mobile responsiveness. You need to tell your developer that your website has to be mobile responsive, because you want to make sure that your website displays properly on your laptop, on your pad, on your mobile phone, that it doesn't break on your mobile phone, or on a laptop or on some big screen, So you want to make sure that it's responsive. It can respond to different environments, okay? So it will change and present itself efficiently on different environments. So that's cross-browser compatibility, okay? And that, I think those three elements are the key elements, to make sure that you ask your designer and developer for. If they don't provide any of them, I think, look for a new developer or designer.
Yeah. And Athan, I suppose that is a very important thing, that you got to ask those questions, you got to come with those suggestions when you sit down for that meeting. You know what, I love it, because we could be talking to you for another 5 hours, to be quite honest with you, because I've learned quite a bit now.
So true.
But any sort of final thoughts from your side? I mean, you are an online presence, and let me just say this, by the way, because you've said a lot of things. You've said that it needs to be enjoyable. The process needs to be enjoyable. So when somebody speaks to a company like you, for instance, it's got to be an enjoyable process. There's got to be a buy-in. You've got to sort of look at the same direction. All these nice things you've said. And tada, I needed to double check that you were telling the truth, so I checked it out. And I can say, so your whole website is littered basically with compliments and people saying that this is the best service, this is the way you got to do things.
So true.
You make the process easy. So from that side, it's all over your website. I just got to pay you a compliment, and which is testament to why we had you here.
You know what? Talking about that, Dugo, and let me put it this way: the visitation to the website, on our website, okay, the previous program that we were on Mahala Monday, okay, we actually took that for the nom.za, okay, and we shortened and we took extracts of that program and we put a much shortened version on our website, okay, because you know what, for us, the ability to have that interview, okay, as an explainer video and a highlighted point was such an essential element for our clients. So now clients can go to our website and see this shortened version of that explainer video. So it's basically, you know what, in the technology world now, we call it storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't spend all the time literally telling that story to every single client. So using that video as that storytelling format is what increased, okay, the adoption of the nom.za by at least tenfold. So now we use that small, literally like an advert, you know, like a preview. You know, this is what the nom is about. You know, that condensed video. You know, almost like a preview, and everybody knows that. You know what? When you're excited about the next movie that comes out, what makes you excited about the next movie that's coming out? The previews.
Yeah.
You know, so utilizing that last interview in that format of storytelling and preview, man, you know what? It's been absolutely phenomenal. We've seen a huge uptake, and not now having to actually, how can I say, explain to every single new client, you know what, we use that video, we send it through to prospective clients, we use that video on our social media as a form of advertising, you know what I mean, for the nom.za, you know what I mean, and its adoption, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. You know, I need to thank you guys both for that.
Thank
No
you.
pleasure. So just to be clear, because of us, I just want to be clear,
Yes,
because of us. That's what we do.
that's what we do.
Because of the credit's all yours, you know what I mean?
Not at all. You know what I mean? This is exactly what we do, and it's only because of wonderful people like you offering their time and their expertise and coming on Mahala Monday that we are willing to give this kind of information to audiences.
Correct.
But on that note, you will be surprised at how many wedding videos I am. I kind of bomb them, yeah. That is what I do. So, Athan, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you
Stunning.
again. Absolutely brilliant. And we're very grateful and honored, I think, to
Almost
exactly to what
definitely.
you have said, to what Mahala Monday has done. And all I can say is thank you very much for your expertise, your time, for joining us here. And once again, sharing information and making it easy accessible for people, and especially with teething questions, because these are difficult things to consider.
Totally. Oh,
You know what, Dougal, on that, I would actually say, you know what, my response to that would be, like you said in the previous interview, have your coffee halfway and do. You know, you know, but brilliant keywords, you know, and you want to use these kind of keywords and analogies and things like that to actually get your message across, you know what I mean? And not only get your message across in a human, engaging way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That people can, that people not only educate themselves, but they actually enjoy the educational process.
Yeah. No, Athan, it is.
yeah.
It is always absolutely brilliant talking to you, of course. So Athan joining us from MCOZA today, and of course really covering everything around domain names and hosting and email and websites and all the questions you got to be asking, of course, when you got to make those decisions. So from our side, all I can say is thank you very much, sir, for joining us. I'm going to call you a friend of the show because I think that is what you are, and you are really the expert on this front. You know, that's why we spoke to you.
Thank you, Doodle.
Yeah, thanks, Athan. I really enjoyed your company once again.
Rhoda, Google, thank you for having me. I, as always, I appreciate it. You know, I had a wonderful time.
And we wish you the best. Thank you very much. So that is Athan from MCOZA. You definitely got to go check them out because all the information you need. And you know, we spoke to many things there. Obviously, you're planning, but this is where the world is now. You got to make things convenient. And
So true.
Let me just put it out there because I started off with this analogy. A lot of us think this is sort of the secondary thing, you know, getting the business. Like first thing people do, they print a business card or they have like an online presence.
Yeah.
But that was in normal times. And it was almost considered the second thing, you know, instead of polishing, owning your skills.
Yeah.
Now, nobody can go out. Nobody can drive down the street. Everybody
So
is
true.
in.
Yeah.
That is where you got to do that now.
Oh, so
So it is important. So Athan has really sort of brushed some of those important questions, the
Important
things you need to sort of go when you go and take this service. You
Yeah.
know what? And all I can say to you, nothing better than actually going to MCOZA.za.
To get it. So
Just
true.
go to
Yeah.
MCOZA straight away. Go speak to Athan straight away because this is
Yeah,
the thing
that's
they do.
exactly it. And you know what, Dougal, but today not being able to actually go out there, you Google everything. I need to buy this, Google it. And you look at which company you can go buy it from. So if you as a business is not there on the web and you're not basically putting your presence out there, nobody's going to know about you in this time and age we're living in right now with COVID. You're going to be a blank.
Exactly, and this is important, and also I like the fact that he said because of Mahala Monday, this particular episode, and you watching it and you sharing it and you liking it. More importantly, of course, that has also played a difference in his business. There you have it. If you're a business owner, if you're from an organization, of course, Mahala Monday is that platform for you. And for that reason, we love your input, we love your feedback. So definitely get in touch with us at Nickay Productions, and the details, of course, right at the bottom of the screen. So that was insightful, it was helpful, more importantly it was very revealing, and from our chat with Athan today, and that is it from me. I've got nothing to say. How do you top that?
How do you top that? So true.
I'm
that
done.
Is so true. And you know what, on that as well, Dougal, I mean, before we finish off and we're all done, if there's companies out there also looking for that opportunity, give us a call, wanting to put your name out there as well, and we're also here to be able to assist you. Give us a call.
Pick up, do it. That is it from us at Mahala Monday for today. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you also very special warm thanks to our special guest Athan and MCOZA, and definitely go check out their details, and as I said earlier, you'll see everything in the wonderful service they do really on their website. But most importantly, this video will not just help you, but it will help many others. So what do you got to do?
Subscribe and hit the bell. Really miss out on that.
Share, like,
Yeah,
do
share.
all those things, and
Ding,
put something
ding.
nice there of me, because everybody says something nice of Rhoda, man.
Keep well, everybody. Have a fabulous week. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.